Dr. Susan Masten. She's a professor at Michigan State University, and she will talk a little bit more. Actually, Dr. Ferguson gave a great segue. She will talk to us about specifically some of the experiences she has had in impacting her education students, particularly in teaching labs. Dr. Masten.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here and to present to you. What I'm going to talk today is a little bit of background information about how the socioeconomic and inequity issues have impacted students and how we've tried to address that at Michigan State University. So research has shown that COVID-19, Research has shown that COVID-19 has disproportionately affected racial and ethnic minority groups with high rates of death in African American, Native American, Latinx communities as compared to that in white communities. This is thought to be due to a variety of reasons, including chronic medical conditions, poor access to healthcare, along with living and working conditions that predispose them to worse outcomes. For example, the wealth of white households is 10 times that of Black households. 30% of whites have had the privilege of working from home during the pandemic. On the contrary, only 20% of Blacks have had the same privilege. Next. COVID-19 has disproportionately affected first-generation college students as compared to students with college-educated parents. As shown here, minority seniors were much more likely to have changed or canceled their plans to attend college compared to white students. Internet connectivity, as mentioned by Alicia, is poor among many of these students and is poor for first-generation, minority, and rural students as compared to others. Next. Next. As many of us are aware, international students have been greatly affected by COVID-19. Travel restrictions have prevented many from returning or arriving in the US. Their mental health may be affected by their concerns for their family's health and well-being in their home country. Visa requirements or delays have meant that many are forced to remain at home, and this results in a sense of isolation from their peers. They struggle with having to overcome time differences, challenges to poor internet, and as mentioned, the sense of isolation, which is affecting many of our students. Next. A year and a half ago, which sometimes right now feels like ages ago, I agreed to revamp our environmental engineering lab class to meet the new ABET student outcomes and the revised environmental engineering program criteria. When I did so, I had no clue that I would be attempting to do this during a pandemic. The goal of the revised course was to provide students with hands-on activities that would allow them to design and conduct experiments and to analyze the data generated to make sound engineering judgment and recommendations. As the decision was made to move almost all fall semester courses online, the activities needed to be independent of location and could be conducted remotely. My goal was to allow the students to use inexpensive, readily available kits to conduct their experiments. And thus, over the summer, I developed 6 labs and 4 assignments that would accomplish these goals. The labs, while I think have been generally successful, do have challenges. While I lecture synchronously, the students are allowed to do their labs asynchronously. This results in a significant disconnect and a lot of email traffic. The students are in teams and the need to compile data, but time differences and the inability to meet in person has resulted in challenges for many of our students. Next. In this lab course, and also in my water and wastewater engineering class, which I'm also teaching this semester, I've used a number of management techniques to try and overcome many of the challenges that I've mentioned and Alicia also mentioned. For example, I found that I needed to be flexible with assignment due dates and office hours. I've got students all over the world, some of whom are on a 12-hour difference. So what works for me doesn't necessarily work for them. I record my lectures and I post them on YouTube, which they can later view. That means that they don't have to access the course management system to view. And as one student noted, that he liked having them on YouTube because he felt like he was just watching YouTube videos rather than doing work all the time. I never expected that one, but it was interesting. I don't require their video cameras to be on. Many are living at home. They're living with multiple family members. So for their own privacy, I think it's important not to require video cameras on. And in both of my courses, I've chosen textbooks that are available through the university library system, so the students didn't have the added expense of textbooks. I've used teamwork. It helps in terms of building a sense of community, but there are challenges, especially for those that are overseas, those with poor internet connections. But at the same time, as I mentioned, it does provide students opportunities to socialize. I found that students tend to struggle with time management and remembering deadlines. So I send out weekly messages along with reminders at the start and end of each lecture to help ensure that students have the information they need regarding due dates, assignments, upcoming lectures to help them be successful.
Susan,
I've also used a class blog for more informal communication, and then I've used participation questions to focus on their mental health and well-being. And lastly, I think it's really important, and Alicia mentioned this, we need to maintain active collaboration amongst all of us, and so that we don't have that same sense of isolation too, and can move forward successfully with educating the next generation of students. Next. So just thank you. Photos here are actually my students this week who have been out in the field sampling to measure nitrogen and phosphorus in various different waterways. And it's been actually exciting to see them accomplish this. Thank you.